I guarantee if one of them would have done that, I would have that card and I would have called them at least 4 or 5 times, and it would be really easy to roll into a repeat customer then, as opposed to that friction where I could call my neighbor or text them and be like, hey, who does your lawn? And we've got something going on or we're sick. But the people that do their lawns and work have never just reached out to kind of serve in that way. And they do great work.
Welcome to Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help manufacturing executives command the front and win the floor. I'm Richard Walsh, creator of the Sharpened Impact methodology, and I spent decades helping leaders transform frontline teams, unlock hidden profit, and capture capacity they didn't even know they had. If you want to see where your leadership gaps are costing you and how to fix them, head over to grittolead.com and run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator today. Let's sharpen your edge and get started. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast, with another incredible guest. I've got Kurt Uhlir with us today. And Kurt, it's a tradition. No one knows Kurt better than Kurt. So, Kurt, give us the backstory, bring us up to speed, and we'll get into the conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Yeah, the I think most people that look at my resume, they look at LinkedIn now, I get introduced on stage. They're going to introduce me as that tech founder, the scaler that helps grow multi-million dollar companies up through the billions of dollars. I've been part of some of those companies. And while that's true, I started really in home services, selling things at flea markets, had 11 retail stores. So like that's where I started, and that's where I continue to get pulled back into. And so while I've been part of like most of us had a Garmin device in our car back in the day, or we used MapQuest. I was at a small company that was still 85 million a year in revenue then, that we took up to 1.44 billion. There was all of the actual data behind that, and Rand McNally and video game systems like some of the ones back in my thing back there. And well, that's true. And that's where I've continued to just companies like that. Like a lot of times I've ended up back in home services to a lot of degree. I was at a company in that marketing technology space that we sold to EXP Realty, or their parent company. Took them from like the 15th largest brokerage to the number one in the world, and like the number one in the US, and then number one in the world. And now I'm back at a company called EZ, with a E and Z as in zebra, homesearch.com, a Zillow competitor with millions of people using us. But while we started with real estate and local partners, we've expanded in the last couple of months to home service providers, because all of those agents have people that they work with and trust. And the other ways, say too, we had general contractors and repair people and HVAC people that were coming to us going, how do we get in with some of what you all are doing? Because it's different than what the other big portals are doing.
Yeah, that's so true. It's interesting. I was working on some stuff like that as well. Like, the industry is not being served, right? They're just like nothing's changed. We've had the
Right.
internet, we got AI, and nothing's changing for this. So I'm like, part of me is, how do we change that? How do
Yeah.
we bring this into the companies to not only run us more efficiently and be better, right, and handle the mundane stuff, but how do we increase that reach?
Right.
Because that's what you're talking about, right? Pretty much just how do you get that reach out there?
How do you increase that reach? But also, like, how do your point was serve it? How do you actually just serve the people that are locally? I mean, I've been at some of those, mass market, real estate brokerages, and it's like, well, there's a huge churn from people that are part-time agents. That's very different than having, say, in the cases, the real estate agent, somebody who's doing 50 to 100 transactions of the exact type of the person who's buying or selling today. Well, like that's much more of where Preston's heart was when he started Easy Home Search. He came from real estate in a variety of ways, but he was like, well, look, if you're the local person, I'm in Fulton County, Georgia, and he's like, if you're in Fulton County, do you want to work with just anybody, or do you want to work with somebody who truly operates and they dev the business? Maybe they have a team or a small brokerage. And so, as opposed to like Zillow and those others and Redfin, where they're like, how do we just get as many leads as possible and hand them off? He's like, well, no, we want to serve people. And so, how do we do that? Like, we always keep in mind that we're the ones that the relationship with the customer, and we bring in the best agents, and then now that's expanded. And I think that's where so many people either they try to get big too fast, or they're local providers, like I think a lot of your audience, and they just look at how do we grow versus how do you serve people. And at the end of the day, I find if you serve people, they have no choice but to tell people about you, and then your business grows.
Yeah, another thing on that, you're exactly right on that, Kurt. So you also add, when you focus on serving people, You know what else you do? You come up with new services.
Yeah.
You start to figure there's new ways to serve. I can actually help you. All of a sudden, your revenue can grow without you know adding other people, right? You just learn how to serve, or adding more
Right.
customers, rather, right? You just learn how to serve your people at a higher level and offer them more. So you're right, when you change that focus, it's really important. Especially locally, you want to dominate locally. Forget
Mhm.
about thinking you want to take over 5 states or whatever. Like, can you handle your 40-mile radius? Like, where do you
Right.
start there? Dominate that, and then you can talk about going out from there.
Yeah, I think that I mean that's what too many people they miss. And so, it's serving your customers. It's also just it's serving the community, the people around you. I mean, I gave the example sometimes, I owned a lawn care business. That was one of the businesses that I had to form an LLC when I was 14 and ended up selling it for a good bit when I went to college. Well, so I do my own lawn because as part of it, I have little kids at home. And I know one of the best ways to teach them how to do things is not letting them watch daddy work on the laptop. It's letting them sweat with me. And
Yep.
so, but yet there's some days that like something comes up, I might not want to do my own lawn or other thing. Well, all the neighbors on me across the street and both sides have three different people providing that. Only one of them has ever waved at me, and he's never come up and spoken to me. The other ones just look down, as opposed to somebody coming up over, especially when we had balloons out. When we had our last little one said, "Hey, if you no, we see you mowing your own lawn, but if anything ever comes up, here's my card. Just let me know." I guarantee if one of them would have done that, I would have that card and I would have called them at least 4 or 5 times, and it would be really easy to roll into a repeat customer then, as opposed to that friction where I could call my neighbor or text them and be like, "Hey, who does your lawn?" And we've got something going on or we're sick. But the people that do their lawns and work have never just reached out to kind of serve in that way. And they do great work. I mean, I love what I see, but there's that friction that has hindered me becoming at least a part-time customer, if not a repeat customer. And so there's so many ways you could apply that. I mean, another example I think about was it's about 2 years ago. We used a HVAC provider here in Roswell, Georgia, called Estes. They're a larger provider in the area. And I called them for a quote because I knew my one system was like 14 years old. I was losing a little bit of cooling. So the guy that came out to give me a quote, he looks at it and he's I'm happy to give you a quote, but this capacitor is out. Like I have an old one, I could give it to you. So he literally put an old capacitor that somebody else had taken off on my system, did not charge me, said, "I'll give you the quote, but you don't need the quote right now," and didn't even charge me for any repair. Well, of course, who did I call then when I actually needed the
Right.
full system 2 years later?
Yeah, exactly. It's those little things. Now, a lot of times these, landscape companies depend on their size and everything else. They got guys who are doing the work.
Right.
They don't train them to sell. They don't train them to like be sociable. They're in and out of this stuff sometimes.
All right.
Yesterday, I'm walking into the office. There's a guy out there on a ride on mowers, the stand ups, and they're on that. And I'm like, and I'm looking, I'm going, man, that's electric. Like him, all he hears the
Yeah.
blades turning. So I'm like, dude, stop, man. Dude, is that electric? He's like, yeah. And we start chatting. I'm like, well,
Yep.
can you get a full charge on that? Can you get all day on that charge? We're talking about stuff.
Yep.
I'm like, I like that. And it's a commercial company, a really well run commercial company, but and I'm not Mr. Green or anything like that,
All right.
but like, I don't want to hear that engine all day if I got to ride that thing.
Right.
So but I'm like, that's really cool. And they probably
Yep.
have a generator in the trailer that they run between jobs to keep that thing charged up.
I,
Because it's not going to go all day. But that interaction,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I know to go to. You know what I mean? I see it, and it's you're exactly right. It makes a difference.
Well, and you made the comment that, they don't teach their frontline guys to sell. Well, but all you have to do is teach them to smile and be friendly like that.
That's what I'm
When somebody
saying.
waves their
Yeah.
hand and says, "Hey, I have a question," you should say yes. You should pause what you're doing and give them the permission to be like, "I know we average so much time for a job, but if you have a neighbor that wants to talk to you, that's the first priority at that point."
Yeah, we do that too. We used to do the door hangers. Do the 6-pack.
Yeah.
You know, 2 on each side, 3 across the street. Just hang those and go.
Yeah.
When you're at the job, just go to the next one. You don't have to talk to anybody. Just get those on there done. Say, hey, we're working at Mrs. Smith's house.
Yeah.
We'd love to give you a quote. That's it. Okay, they're the ones who do the neighbor. I got this thing in the door. So you super introverted landscapers, you can take that little piece of advice.
Well, and well, let's stay with landscaping, for example. So I have a neighbor We've about 120 homes in our neighborhood. We have one neighbor that I know. The reason that they have the person doing their lawn right now is because the person saw either a ribbon or balloons out when they had their little one like 4 or 5 years ago, and a husband wife operator, and so they know their time. And it's like if you don't have something else booked right afterward, you have a little more bandwidth. So literally, they've got the ribbon. They had a quiet knock on the door, and the person said, "Hey, look, you just had a baby. Can we do your lawn for free? We're not gonna we're not gonna do everything else, but we have the time. We'd love to just do it for free, no cost. We're not gonna sell you anything. Of course, it was a sale, but it was a
Right.
nice thing to do, and they knew they had the time. So what? It cost them a half a gallon of gas. Well, they
Right.
now have a customer for 4 or 5 years. I guarantee that's not the first house they ever did that with. That was part of their thing of looking around, being like, hey, if we have time, if we're not booked next, how could we serve people that are close to us?
Yeah, because and this goes for any industry, but landscaping too. It's like you've got to reach out. Client acquisition isn't as easy as you think it would be. Okay. And I
Right.
always tell people you got Chuck in a truck with a push mower, okay, and a beat up truck. There's a market for that person. Okay. There's a market for that guy. There's a clients for that guy.
All
Then
right.
there's a guy with a decent trailer and a nice zero turn mower, and he'll come out and do that. Or whatever. Then there's a guy with 5 trailers fully decal. There's all these levels serving different people. So for them they're all trying to find that ICP, that ideal client, but it's not as easy as you think.
Right.
From a landscaper. So those little things that you're talking about, and like what I mentioned, you do those, you can double your business in a season.
Absolutely.
It's
Well,
like,
and also like your friends and family that hopefully use you, but that love you and have no problem recommending you. Like, how do you make it easy for them or worth their while? And so, like, like I do like affiliate programs, but you don't have to do it like that. And especially like for us, like there's two providers that we have in my wife and I's like close circle where like that we recommend them all the time whenever because we have copy and paste notes recommending them. One's a tree business and the other one's a general contractor. We have copy paste notes on our phones to drop into Nextdoor or Facebook when we see somebody ask a question. Look, hey, we're looking for such and such. And the reason we do it is because we get a little something back, but it's not cash. Like the first time we recommended a friend that's a GC, he sent me a gift card. It was a nice gift card too, because it was a good deal. And I said, thank you for it. I'm not going to give it back. And I said, but if you ever want to do that again, I recommend you because I want to, like, where I give, like, just do something for us. And so when of course, he always asks, like, hey, how did you find us? When he knows it's my wife or he just makes a donation in our name and we get a little thing in the mail from them or forwarded an email that's like, hey, here's another 50, here's another $100. That's wonderful. A friend that just started doing that by himself without us even mentioning it when we recommended for tree work. Same type of thing. He used to be with the ministry. And so when we recommend him, he knows we're recommending him because he does good work and we like to support him and his family. So he just makes a small donation, of which some people would give to kick back to a partner or something. And he
right.
makes sure that the donation's made in our name. And that, like, it seems so small, but there's that little dopamine hit that we do get. But we know that he's supporting causes that we care about. And it's a good reminder that says, hey, they noticed.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff that we used to call them unexpected and meaningful gifts.
Yeah.
So I owned a gym, right? People be training, and I make little juice shots for everyone they get done with the workout. Man, they're all going out. It's all boot camp style training and stuff. But same thing would be every now and then. It'd just be a gift card. It'd be a $15 Starbucks gift card.
Yep.
Like, man, you're killing it. You're just killing it this week, man. Here you go. Give that. And those little things, those unexpected, they're like, oh, just for nothing. Or
Yeah.
toss them a shirt. You're killing it, man. You earned this. And they just
Well,
get this stuff. No one's expecting to hit this and I get this. It's always just random and
yeah.
it's public. So other people see it too. They're in the gym, obviously, and that kind of stuff's powerful.
Well, here's the tip for people that are on your team. Yes, do that for customer acquisition, but if you want to change the behavior of the people that are working for you when they show up to do the lawns or they show up in that tree business, you reward them when they take the time to talk to a neighbor, when they do something, when they come back and say, "Hey," like it's that healthy conflict where they're like, "Hey, you keep telling us to do this, but I'm shortcutting the job." And when they cause that friction, that's a little bit costly, maybe even from a relationship perspective, but especially for your business, but it's the right thing for your customers. Treat their family right. Hey, here's a gift card. Take care of the family with pizza or something tonight, whatever that is. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a CEO at a company we had just sold the company to but this worked for anyone. We'd sold this software company to a mid-sized public company, and he's a vegetarian. His wife had worked for PETA before, so like he's not coming back for that. Well, I'm a full carnivore, and so what shows up at my door one day after we had some healthy conflict at work, which is what he would have wanted, what I would want. 9 pounds of boutique bacon in
There
three
you go.
different flavors.
There you
And
go.
like I call him. Like there's no, I'm like, what in the world? He's like, first of all, do not tell my wife in person that this ever happened. But I'm like, I don't understand. And he was like, look, when we travel, like where do we go eat? Like we go to steakhouses because they'll fix my stuff. I want to make sure you have a good meal. And he was like, I knew that would be meaningful for you. I'm like, it was more meaningful than he ever could have known because I knew that it wasn't him and he was thinking about me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. There's not much better than bacon except bacon wrap bacon.
There you go.
And that's pretty good. So you could
There you
take
go.
that. But yeah, we used to do a lot of that stuff. I used to get those gifts from friends as well. You get this box of meat.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's an awesome gift.
Yeah.
I mean, you get people meat. It's a beautiful thing. So
Well, and especially for people that live, like it has to be a little more rural in the country, but like so we live in the suburbs of Atlanta, but we also have a place in rural North Georgia where there's save a lot. I mean, you can go get a 10 pound of miscellaneous bacon for like $20. And
yeah,
like you drop off that to a couple people, you can drop $200 and have big 10
uh,
people on
that's right.
your team
You
immaculately happy.
you're like the paper boy. You're just throwing pounds of bacon from the curb and people's doorsteps.
I, I,
So
I, I take that 10 pounds, I cut it up in half pieces slabs or maybe quarters, and I just stir it in a giant stock pot. Dr. Ken Berry in Tennessee taught me that.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Like I said, so many options with bacon. It's a good thing. So fantastic. So yeah, I love the concept of this. I think, Kurt, a lot of times when you talk about growing a company, so you've done that with on very large scales, you keep getting pulled back here into either the retail space or the home services industry, and you see that. And I'm curious, from a challenge standpoint, do you see it as the same? I'm air quoting kind of the same, or do you like? Oh, I know there's perhaps different approaches, but like is to you is growing a company?
Pretty much the same. I mean, while I tend to stay in technology, I don't care about industries. And I think actually because I tend to change industries, that actually makes me better. I mean, from a marketing or sales perspective, like if you bring me in to sell for real estate marketing technology to real estate agents and home service providers, well, I yes, I've been in that for the last 7 years, so I'm good at it at this point. But like what do most of our competitors do? They hire somebody who's been in for 30 years, and so they wonder why all their branding, all their messaging, all their customer support all sounds the exact same and
Right.
fails for the same reasons. As opposed to, I'm like, well, this is what we did here, and this is what we did in this other industry, and we bring the best in. So,
You know what's interesting about that? You're right. It's like it's fresh eyes.
yep,
Okay. We do it as coaching, we're the outside eyes. We come in, no emotional attachment. We just see everything that's broken
yeah,
very quickly and we can fix it. But at the same time, sometimes it's like you get these fresh eyes and maybe there's something that's working now. Maybe there's no idea that doesn't work, but there's always this small element of risk. But I really love that you got to come in and be that fresh. Those people have done it forever. And you see, if you could go and look at the line of accomplishment, if you will, you'll see it's just rinse and repeat.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, the reason it's the same, whether we're talking about like home services or we're talking about, $200 million or $2 billion B2B software companies, is it fundamentally everything comes down to implementation. So the systems and the operations for implementing. And the second part, then, it is a leadership style, which way too many people complicate it. Because like, how many, I don't know, how many different like shelves in like a Barnes and Noble is there,
Right.
on leadership? But to me, it's really only two ways. There's either that authoritative leadership that says, do it exactly the way I tell you, or you're fired, and the other side is that servant leadership approach. Well, but what that happens is the first one, they might have a mission or here's how we treat customers on the wall, but you're not going to hear it from the boss. And at the end of the day, it's always like leading by fear. On the other side, it's that service side. And so that's where it's like, no, it's the mission. You keep talking, telling the people, here's what it is. They're going to see it in your actions. They're going to come back and reward you. They're going to reward you not for doing job or the tasks, but for helping the customers in the way that they wanted to. Because at the end of the day, as that servant leader, I'm not hiring somebody to go mow a lawn. I'm hiring them to give the customer a certain feeling and value so that they keep paying us. That may mean, like, what do I see sometimes? One of the people that takes care of my neighbors, every once in a while, they take their trash cans down or back, depending on the time of the day they come, if they're coming on Wednesday of that week for them, because that's when our trash day is. Guaranteed it's not part of their service, but they're rewarding their people about taking the right time to treat the customers well, as opposed to just go mow the lawn, trim the bushes, edge, and get out.
Yeah, it's always, I mean, home services. The words in the title. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
you got to serve, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people don't spend the time. I've really, all the owners I work with all the time is like they're not taking the time. They're looking at, like you said, the task.
right.
I mean, hey, the lines are straight. Okay,
Yeah,
the edging's perfect. They blew the driveway and the walks and everything. All this stuff's good.
right.
Okay, and that's nice. So if I drive by, it looks fantastic. But without that last element, the service aspect, doing those kind of
Yeah,
things, those unexpected and meaningful gifting, stuff like that, that's what keeps the client and builds your referral generator.
absolutely.
Because the thing I learned years and years ago was, like we were talking about someone giving in your name for doing a referral. And I got guys, listen, you give me a referral, I'll give you $200. I got like roofers like that, right? I had a roofing company too. I'm like, and his name was Dan. I go, Dan, no one cares about $200.
Right.
Like you think I'm going to put my name at risk for $200? Because that's what he goes, what are you talking about? I go, you don't understand a referral exchange. There's you, the contractor, there's your current customer, and then there's the person you want your customer to refer you to. Okay, out of those three, whose name's at greatest risk? That'd be your customer. Because if you go and do a bad job for the friend that they referred you to, yeah, the friend's not going to like you very much, but you're going to go away. They're going to be hating on me if I'm the one who
Right.
referred. They come over and have dinner. Okay, so they're not going to risk $200 for that, for a tarnished reputation.
Yeah, well, I mean, to your point, like that's the reason that being successful in business, it's the same regardless of where you go, whatever you go into. Is it at the end of the day is, are you adding the value to people? Are you serving them? So your point about like referrals, are you adding too much risk? We're not thinking about where that goes. I mean, in the real estate space, there's a large brokerage, and the founder, I mean, I literally had our CEO was like, you can't get like I was standing up. I'm like, I'm going to interrupt the whole keynote because I'm like, I can't believe what this guy just said because he's talking to a couple thousand real estate agents. And what comes out of his mouth is when somebody's buying a home or selling a home, the most important person in the transaction is the real estate agent. And I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
I've bought a lot of properties and I've never had my real estate agent write the check. At the end of the day, I'm the one that writes the check, maybe with the
Right.
bank writing it on my behalf.
Right.
So at the end of the day, like, I'm glad that his sentiment is what he was trying, what I hope he was wanting to convey, but he clarified he wasn't. I was hoping he was trying to clarify is we want to treat our agents as 1099 contractors, the best and different than others. But he actually did think, because somebody asked him, he did think that the real estate agent was the most important person. And I'm like, unless they're going to write the check for me to buy that house, they are not the most important person. Like it wouldn't be wise for me to buy a house without an agent, but people do it, and I would rather do that than think that the agent's the most important person. And the other day, at the end of the day, though, like now our customers are real estate agents. Still, who's the most important person? It's the person buying and selling the home. So we serve the agent by making sure their clients are the happiest.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a good point. I mean, and I'm glad the guy kind of doubled down so you could be clear.
He
Okay.
had a
Because we
strong
need to know,
position.
right? I mean, we need to know. Okay. That's good. You don't want to go, he probably didn't mean that. But I like when they confirm it themselves.
Yeah.
So, okay. I know. I mean, and there's people like that. Like, okay, they sell a lot, wouldn't do any of their techniques, don't care for
Right.
them. I would never sell that way, but works for them.
Right.
Okay, like all good, but I'm not going to their conference. Okay,
Yep.
that's right. I'm going to go somewhere else, or no conference. I don't know, but you're right, and I always am. that customer facing with my clients. Same thing. I talk even down to advertising. Okay. I'm talking wrapping your vehicles. Like, who are you speaking to? Because
Right.
when I read your vehicles, it sounds like you're talking to another plumber. Okay. You aren't hiring another plumber. I mean, you're not being hired by
Right.
another plumber, right? You got to get on the customer facing side, look and say, what do they don't know anything about plumbing. They don't want to know anything about plumbing. The toilet's overflowing. Can you
Right.
fix it? That's what they want to know, right? So it's really interesting. And I take a lot of pictures of trucks and vehicles and stuff like that because some are awesome. Some
Right.
of them, like, I can't read them, or it takes me 10 minutes. They'll do stuff and I can read cursive. I'm of that age. Okay. But they do their logo in that and they
Right.
don't do it well. And I'm going, I can't read. It's on the whole side of a trailer.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm whatever 50. I'm looking, I can't, I don't know what it says. I can
Well,
see,
it's like you drive by and
I,
you see a billboard with a QR code. And I'm like, am I supposed to scan that while I'm driving by at
right.
70 miles an hour? Like,
Yeah.
I can appreciate if it was on the side of the vehicle because they might be parked next to me somewhere.
Yep.
But
Or sitting behind them in traffic and then you can take your thing. Right. So
right.
and a great example of that, Kurt, is I'm behind a plumbing a box truck. Right.
Yeah.
And I took the picture because I'm sitting right behind this guy. I'm looking at the back of the roll up door and I'm like, there was a furnace. Okay. So there's a furnace and it says as low as $99 a month. And I went, that genius. Okay.
Mhm.
Had their name down the bottom, not huge. I go, that's their most profitable thing they do, guaranteed.
Yeah.
They just say, hey, at 99, instead of paying 5 or 10, $99 a month. I can, okay, I can take a picture of that. I got a furnace. That speaks.
Yeah.
Okay. In a moment, you can go boom and then you can see the name, but other ones have their name. I mean, like their personal name, Frank's, what,
Right.
and it's huge. And then down here, what they do is like, no, listen, like I said, my septic's busted, having a little
Right.
trouble. Do you do septics? Because I don't want to have to read a list of things or see
Right.
your name. I don't want to know. So I always give guys a lot of trouble about that. Just getting it figured out. Like what message are you conveying from your vehicles? And that goes to the age of the vehicle and the
Right.
cleanliness and everything else. But you gotta get to the customer side and think like that. Go talk to people who don't know anything about your business and get their opinion.
Right. Right.
Don't
Well, to
ask
your
your
point about fresh eyes, like that's why changing industries or having, a mastermind group or a coach come in is so beneficial. I mean, the reason I'm so good at scaling and growing things that are already established and adding one or two, three zeros to the end of their revenue in a very short amount of time is because I like to document everything. And part of that is I need to be able to replace myself. And so I'm always mad scientisting something else. But always, whether I'm documenting it or I'm having you or on my team document it, that process always uncovers so many things that I don't realize I might do naturally, which I would never coach or teach until I start to write it down. But to your point, writing it down does have me go, why do I do it that way? And then even now it's so much easier because you can have that conversation like with ChatGPT, even free. They don't have to pay $20 a month for it. I mean, like, hey, you're gonna have your vehicle wrapped. Take a picture of the mock-up and put it in and tell them who your customer is and get feedback on it and tell it to
That's
say,
right.
do not be nice to me. I'm currently doing, $120,000 a year. I want to be at $700,000 a year. Why is this not going to help me get there? Tell me the
That's right.
brutal truth. And ChatGPT will be mean to you in a good way.
Yeah, I learned there's two words you say. So put in yourself and go roast this. Those are the two words you put in, and it's amazing. I mean, it'll dial down. It'll do just
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
saying, but just put roast this because this is after the first thing it gives you.
Right,
Because
right.
remember, Chad is built by humans, and what are humans? They're lazy. We're all lazy. Okay, we have this innate ability to be lazy.
Yeah, yeah.
So is Chad. Okay, but you make it
Yep.
work. That's when you get the good stuff. You hit roast this and go through it. It's a lot of fun. So I'm totally with you. But yeah, it's the communication side
Right.
of business that everyone struggles with communication. It's one of the
Yep.
biggest issues out there. I mean, the contractors, oh my gosh, number one complaint, lack of communication, poor communication. You don't hear many things about good communication
Right.
in the job. It's all part of the nightmare experience of having a remodel done, right? So you look at those and you go, well, okay, I guess I should flip that. I should be really good at communicating. I don't have because that's the number one complaint out
Right.
of thousands. It's the number one complaint. So but they don't know and tries to fix it.
Right. Over communicate, but also under promise. Make sure that people always feel like you've over delivered. And so what stands out to me is I'm a huge sci-fi and fantasy buff. And so years ago when Star Trek: The Next Generation was out, they got Scotty from the original Star Trek like out. And so it was just part of the thing there. And he's talking to the new young chief engineer Geordi. And Geordi, the captain asks, like, how long is this going to take? And Geordi says, they've been talking, and Geordi's like, it's going to take 10 hours. Microphone goes off, and Scotty looks at him and is like, well, this is exactly how long we thought it was going to take. Why would you tell him that? He's like, well, because that's the honest thing. And he's like, never. Scotty's like, no, no, never tell your captain how long it's actually going to take. You tell him it's going to take 20 hours or 30 hours and you get it done in 10 hours and they're going to be really happy with you. And I'm like, well, yeah, because how often, like, maybe it's going to be done in that time. Maybe you've even put some margin on it. But his thing was like, your captain is always going to push you for more than what you're capable of. Don't dare give him the honest time. And I'm like, yeah, so it's like over communicate, give them an estimate, but make sure your customer always feels like, damn, that's the best plumber, that's the best HVAC person I've ever had come in here.
Yeah, it's no one complains about you being done early,
Right.
okay, or starting the job earlier than you
Uh,
thought. You tell them it's 3 weeks. Hey, we got done with some stuff. We can start in 2 weeks.
yeah,
We're now a weekend. Absolutely, let's do it. Unless there's some other reason, right? So you're exactly right, and it's not even hedging your bets. If you've done something long enough,
right,
it could take that long
right,
because things can get whacked, right? So you're not even like trying to fudge the stuff. You're like, it could go this long,
right.
so it could be this long. We get it done early. Good. Everything went well. Or only two
And
things went
to your
wrong.
point, communicate even the bad when it comes out. So like we
Mhm.
had a plumber, we're on a well system at our property in North Georgia, and I went up because the pressure tank went out, and so I was like, okay, no big deal. And it was the fourth day that I finally got mad that the plumber didn't come out.
Mm.
And I'd called a friend who was a general contractor. I'm like, what's going on? He was like, Kurt, it's hunting season. Or I don't remember if
Yeah.
it's hunting season or it was
Yeah.
trout season where they were hunting. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like he's like, a lot of these guys, like, if it's deer season or they've just added
Hmm.
trout to the rivers, like they just don't show. And so I was pissed because it was day four. Like they were supposed to have come out. And I'm like, I'm working on like 2.5 pounds of water pressure coming out. And I call a place. I'm like, look, I'm like, I don't care if he shows tomorrow or not. But if he doesn't show, I'm coming to your office. Like I would have been okay if he didn't come today or the previous day. But when you call and you confirm that he'll be there tomorrow between 8 and 9 and he's not, I'm now upset.
Right. Right.
And I was like, even if he thought, well, I'm only going to fish for 2 days and it's really well, and he's like, I'm going to stay a third day, then call me as soon as you know, like rip the band-aid. I want to know. And they were kind of like, you won't be mad if he can't until tomorrow. I said, I will only be mad if I go to bed thinking he's going to show up tomorrow and he doesn't show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me just warn you: don't go live in northern Wisconsin. Okay, I'm in southern Wisconsin, but that's bad. Northern Wisconsin, you're lucky to get 3 days a week out of these guys.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
talking on the regular, because there's always something to hunt, fish, ride for. Whatever. That is just the mindset. My buddy, we're both originally Chicago guys, big hitter, and building this giant, beautiful log cabin. He's like, Richard, man, you need to get up here. You make a fortune up here. A lot of Chicago people have these weekend homes,
Yep.
summer homes. He goes, no one gets anything done here. It's forever. He said, the way you work, you just come here, they'd be thrilled. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not moving up there. Okay. But it's the point of, you also got to know the local community,
Right.
kind of thing, like, what do these guys do? But you're exactly right. And it's the no show, no call that really burns you.
Right.
You get a call, okay, I get on with my day, whatever. I can go be angry. I can be angry less, right? So yeah, but communication is huge. It's one of the biggest things we teach when I'm training people, training leadership, doing any of these things in the business is really how we communicate and how you doing conflict resolution. How do you taking through this? Because no matter what your business, you're dealing with people. It's just what it is, in some capacity, whether it's on
Yeah.
your own team, you might be locked in a warehouse somewhere. You're still dealing with people, right? You might be client facing. You might be out there dealing with the clients, whole
Right.
nother animal. So it's important that people really grasp that from a business standpoint, regardless of what the business is, what level it is, right? It can be, hey, I'm doing 3 billion a year. That's great. Okay,
Right,
well,
right,
he's doing 300,000. It's the same. You
right.
got to treat people the same, because
Well, and look for both what's happening, like what's happening with your customers outside of what you're helping them with, but as well for like your employees. Like you may be power, you're probably your people that are watching are probably, they're paying everybody by the hour, as they should based on the home services business usually. But it's like, okay, but they have families. And so like somebody may be late to work, they may skip a couple of days. Well, you could just like spout off and be all pissed at them, or you could ask what's going on because maybe they got thrust into elder care. Maybe they have a special needs kid that you didn't know about. Maybe they're helping like there could be a whole bunch of reasons that until you know what's actually going on, well, like you don't know whether they'll actually be upset. You don't know if you could help or something, but that works for your clients too. Like I've seen people and so staying, because in home services, you're at people's homes. And so you see, especially if you're back repeatedly, you see when things shift. And so you can start to like, you notice at Christmas time, what do people get for presents? Because you can see what's in their trash. Well, you can notice when things start to change and go, oh, like, and so like you knock on somebody's door, find out their spouse is gone, it was injured and now they're in a care facility for a little while, even just temporarily. Like whether or not you do something for free, that's how you serve your people. If you don't keep your eye out, you can't communicate with people because you don't even know what to communicate.
yeah, so true. It's interesting, Kurt, because you can train that to a point, right? Like you can teach your people this is kind of the routine that we do. This is what we
Right.
look for and do that. But there's also a portion of that is just in someone or not in someone. Okay. Some people just, they're so tuned out for others. I mean, a lot of people are pretty self focused,
Yeah.
so that's a difficult challenge for them. So what I have found too is you can train it.
Right.
So it becomes part of the operation. Here's the things you're looking for. I have a client, he's does pest control,
Okay.
right? There's a thing where you got to be looking. Like you're looking at the grounds, looking where the garbage can, where the wood
Yep.
piles are, where the holes are, where's this, and you're inspecting, you're going into people's homes
Right.
like all the time, right? You're spraying everything. So he trains them to notice and to talk to the people and create that relationship, with these clients, because there's a lifetime profitable value that's pretty big.
Right.
If you think about something like that, pests don't go away. Well, they do while you're there, but if you leave, they're going to come back, right? So the whole thing is like this. Those are gigs that are pretty good.
Yeah.
That's like a subscription business, right? Every month I'm coming for $140 or whatever and taking care of stuff. So if you can create, and that's a competitive business.
Right.
This guy's going to come in and undercut you by $40 a month. You're going to lose the client. Okay. Unless you've created the relationship with people like, yeah, whatever. I know I'm not doing that. No, this guy, I'm not messing with how good they do their work and take a chance on someone I don't even know.
Agreed.
So,
Well, and to your point, yes, it's trainable, but it's one of those things where we've all, heck, even people that are, they own the pest control business and they're the only employee right now. Like they've worked for a shit boss before as well. And so part of that is, especially when you're hiring people, you realize that no matter what you say, what you build in the system, they're going to watch what you do and what you reward. Like they have PTSD from a bad boss before that
mm-hmm.
said everything you're telling them, but then just cracked their knuckles when they weren't in and out of a job. And so you might be, they may do great for a couple months and then things go sideways. You just got to step back in and coach. Go out in the field with them some days. And like that will spread like wildfire and like let them see what you're doing. Stop by and just like, or when you get that feedback back, like how many people, especially as they start to get larger with home services, like I mentioned Estes. Estes has, I don't know, a couple hundred people working for them in this area. I bet very seldom when they get a testimonial, especially a good testimonial, do they go back to the people that actually did the work. But like that's what the good people do, whether you have two people on your team or 200 people on your team. Hey, we just heard this. You didn't even know that they came and told us. And you just go over the top, like sharing that with people.
I'm doing a lot of stuff in frontline leadership, manufacturing, and everything else too, So same principle. It's like we have these morning huddles.
Yeah.
I'm like, as the leader, as a shift lead or whatever you might be, you're watching, you'll see when someone does something good, right? Make a note
Yeah.
of it. In tomorrow's huddle, you're bringing that up. Say, man, Kurt, you killed it yesterday when you were working over on the CNC machine. I saw the thing go down, man. You had it back up in 5 minutes, man. That was spectacular. Public recognition.
Yep.
It's huge, right? Same principle. Same thing. Like if you're not leading, if you're the ops manager on the whole place, you can't be in your office the whole time. You got to
Right.
be on the floor. Like 40 to 50% of the time, they got to see you on the floor, or it doesn't matter what you say. Everything
Right.
begins at the top, like you're saying. Everything trickles down. So there's a problem. Like when I go into companies, it's hard to do this. And I usually I have a little kind of backdoor way to doing it, but I already know who the problem is, and he's sitting in the biggest chair in the building.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, but I'll go make change down here, get that going. I'm coming for you. Okay, but right now I'm going to fix some problems out here. But we're as owners, we're the biggest stumbling blocks in the business.
Right.
Really are. When it comes down to it, when you really get to it, yeah, you're always going to have the goofball and everything else. But I'm talking like that's the problem, right? If we don't get those outside eyes, if we don't get those people to, a guy like you, come in and see what we don't see because we've been looking at it all day. We've been looking at exactly what you see, but we don't see it. And that's the beauty of it. And that changes the whole dynamic. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, like in some cases they're the problem. In some cases, things could be going great and they could still be a great boss and everyone's killing it. But if they don't see that person out on the floor, if they don't see that person out working, then the company will never reach what it's capable of.
Insane.
And so I was at a company, a software company, when social media was getting started, and like nowadays, like everybody thinks about like you can schedule things on Facebook and whatnot. We were one of two big companies that started that, like for big companies back in the day, like Microsoft, Samsung, and Apple. And so my boss is named Reggie Bradford. Reggie was incredible, one of the hardest workers that I knew, great guy, and he hired A players. And so you put A players, you put a scoreboard up there. We just want to go deliver and beat our score from yesterday. So we had that mentality, but I kept trying to get Reggie to get out of his office because I reported to him I would just work in his corner office most of the time. We'd travel. And he had a belief that said he knew he needed to outwork everybody in the company. He was not that boss in the corner office. He's like, I'm going to outwork everybody else. Well, we started seeing some of the developers slow down a little bit just because we were asking for so much from them and they were getting a little burnt out. I'm like, Reggie, just go sit on their couches out there. Like, let them just like for a couple hours where you're just plowing through. I mean, he would put on blinders basically and knock through like 3 hours of talking to investors and stuff. And, things that like the rest of us, you at least have to go to the bathroom. And he would always push back because he was trying to be humble. And I'm like, I don't know how many conversations I had where I'm like, yes, it's okay to be humble, but if they saw how hard you're working to make sure that their families are provided for, the developers out there, they're going to show up like 4 hours more for you every single day. And he just couldn't get over it himself. We still did really well. We sold for $300+ million to Oracle, but I wonder what we could have done if they'd have just seen what he was trying to hide because also didn't want to gloat.
Yeah, well, you're setting the culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you can't, I mean, that's a huge thing in a business. We try to do the same thing. It's frontline leadership, man. It's guys taking responsibility. They got accountability, right? They're there. They're delivering it. They're in it every day. They understand how to lead. They understand how to do this stuff, and that just works the way up the chain. And their degree,
Right.
it doesn't mean they got to I got to be down on the floor all day,
Right.
every day. But like you've got to make some visits. You got to get your hands on. I have one client, a larger manufacturing company. He's that. You see this guy,
Mm-hmm.
you think he just works on the line.
Yep.
Okay. But he doesn't have the nicest car, nothing, but he's super, real estate. He's got everything, right? You just
Right.
don't
Right.
know it. You just see him, but he's there. I had a billionaire client say to me, 7 a.m., he's going to the plant. He knows who's coming and going. They
Yep.
see him. Okay. He owns professional sports teams. This guy was bigger, but he was there. He's always in the place where you could see him. He was never this mystery guy,
Right.
and just a self-made guy. So just a ton of respect for him. But when you see that, people, they do act differently, like you're saying. They will rise to challenges because you're side by side. You know,
Right.
it's really that. It's kind of that for me, it's that Marine Corps mentality. It's really about the guy on the left and right of you. That's who we're working with, right? But your leadership has to, be on the field. It can't be back in the tent the whole time, right?
Right.
So we got to be seen. You got to be out there. You don't always have to be in the front per se, right? But like someone's leading from the front. My new books is, sharpen the spear, lead from the front. the
Yeah.
thing. So it's kind of important. You got to be out there.
That's why it's actually, I mean, those things are actually easier to do in service industries and manufacturing than it is in technology. Like,
Hmm.
hey, the average CEO at a software company can't go and pull up alongside the software engineers and start coding. Like that,
Right.
they don't even have those skills. But like I was on the chairman of the Made in America movement for years, and we did a bunch of things with President Trump at the White House his first term. And so like we were able to bring like, 9 or 10 companies and sit them around for this big public event the first time. And everyone we sat around, like they were exactly who you're talking about. They're people that, whether they were, doing manufacturing within, Homeland Security, or they were, making swim trunks for somebody. They were people that were on the front lines working with people.
Yeah.
And it's easier in that way a lot of times because like you can step in.
Yeah. I like what you said though, Kurt, when like use a coder example. Yeah, I can't code. Well, I'm
Right.
running the company, but I'm doing things right. Get into a visible place and do it.
Right.
Don't be in the door shut. I'm back there. I had a guy I was consulting with, and I'd be there before him because that's who I am. Okay. But he'd roll in the office, wouldn't say hi to anybody, just beeline to his office and shut that door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even want to be here. I'm not going to work with this guy. Like if you don't have the decency to
Right.
say good morning to someone, he just shut that door and everyone. I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. And it didn't
Well,
work out.
it's
I
it's
just,
also to your point about communication. I worked for a woman. She was a CFO. Had been. I mean, I have no idea how many major companies she's been part of selling, and she was one of the best bosses I've ever had. But at that point, like I'd walk in on a Monday or even a Tuesday, and I barely even got a hi if I got that. Like I'd walk in a Monday, and it was just like being launched off an aircraft carrier. Like, here's what you're gonna do. Here's what's going on. And it's just like finally, I
but,
asked her one day.
but
It's like
it
a
is a
Wednesday.
hello. It
Yeah, it
is
was
a
like a
hello.
Wednesday. Yeah, but like, could you say hi? And I asked her on a Wednesday, and I'm like, Kathy, what's going on? Like, you never asked about my weekends, and she was like, sure I do. She was like times now. It was like 7 o'clock at night. We're still in the office. We're working on a small acquisition, and she's like, I'm like, but not on like Monday, like when we start the day. And she was like, because we have stuff to do. And so to your point, like a marine mentality, she's like, we're in the field. That's where we're going. I want to launch into the week. She was like, when things slow down, as they're always going to do, that's when you and I go to lunch, or that's when we talk. And I had to go back to it, but it took me having the healthy conflict to say, like, no, like you're not social. You don't care. You go straight to your office, and then you just start barking orders, which all of which was true. But I did know that she cared about me greatly. Like she told me I was fired if I didn't go to the doctor because I had a sinus infection and was just trying to power through it. And she's like, I will take you to the doctor, but if you don't leave now, like you don't work here anymore. Like, because that's how hard she was, but she cared about me.
Right.
And once we had that conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, like, no, like everything I'm asking for, you give me, just not when I thought I wanted it. And I was
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
our relationship's entirely different than what I thought it was.
Right.
And then it was great. And then I've used that actually going in now with people. And I'm like, look, I'm going to tell you to go take vacation, and I'm not going to do it. And if you're not taking vacation because you don't see the boss doing it, you get to call me out in meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like you said, there's personalities involved, and when you're at that higher level, whether you're CFO, COO, CEO, whatever that is, a lot of those hellos are let's get to work.
Yeah,
Because, and I always try to explain this to people, it doesn't always sink in, but you have to understand the makeup of that individual. This
right,
person who's built a company, runs a company, man, that's if you're on the team and he's telling you like we're going to do this, this, and this, I go, it's like you're loved. Okay,
right,
it doesn't feel like it, but like this guy, that's communication. That's the good morning.
right,
Let's knock this out. Let's get going. Like I said, now the guy I talked about didn't matter what day it was. It was the same thing, and he was just not a happy person, so or cordial or anything else. So, but I get it. But it's really learning that too, right? Really learning how people function and having the conversation. You had a conversation with her about it too, which is another point of communication.
right,
If that thing's like odd, like I'm just curious. Why do you do that? Because you may actually learn something
right,
about starting your days or routines or what people do, but at least you can create that empathy. Okay, I get it now. Can't wait till Wednesday.
right. Well, and
Let's-
as an employee, you can hold your cards close to your vest. But I find if you want to have a high producing team, no matter what industry it's in, or service, like you have to start opening up. I
Yeah.
mean, I can understand people wanting to hold things back. Like I had a gentleman that worked for me for years, and that like I was pretty sure I'd overheard as some part of his onboarding that he was married when he started working for me, and when he stopped working for me 2 years later, he I knew he wasn't, but I never got any of the story behind. I've
Right.
known him since. I still don't know for sure. Like I've not heard him say like I got divorced. I have no idea what's happened in his personal life. I knew one place he went on vacation in like the 2 years he worked for me because for some reason it came out. And I did ask him about it. He's like, "Well, I just hold my cards right here." But that doesn't work when you're a leader. You've got to be more open and transparent because they're going to
Yeah.
pay attention to your actions as opposed to the other side. And so it was hard for me as somebody who shares so much about what goes on personally and the struggles we go through, and especially where I screwed up, to have somebody who was so much like, I'm not telling you anything.
Yeah. And that those are, well, I'll call them deep issues, right?
Right.
It's not just because he chooses not to. There's been some hurt somewhere where, he may have shared at one point and then it was bad, right? The repercussions were bad or whatever. Someone misused it, abused it. But you're right. The communication aspect is you've got to, there's transparency, and then there's just blatant, like, doors wide open all the time, right? So
Right.
you got to find that balance, right? You really got to understand, like, how much is enough,
Right.
that I share, and what don't I share, right? Because there has to be boundaries there somewhere, right?
Yeah, and it is setting the expectations. Like I'm kind of the belief that it's like you can't hold anybody accountable. You can set expectations, but like accountability comes from people's individual self. And so like you can tell them what you expect, and you can have people not work for you if they're not meeting the end expectation. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to hold people accountable, it becomes threatening. It becomes, hey, if you don't do it the way I see, you're going to be let go. I used to be a very different type of leader. I used to have people that worked for me on 6 continents, and I told everybody like if we're meeting or if you're having a meeting that I know is going on, you could be in Singapore and I might walk into the office and you should be as prepared for that meeting as if you think that I'm actually there. And sometimes I would just show up. Well, because I was the a-hole authoritative boss, it scared people
Yeah.
and they hid things from me. As opposed to setting that same expectation, or if you're in the services industry and it's like, hey, at any time I could show up on the job with you. Make like that's what I'm expecting from there and letting people know, and then show up sometimes. And
Right.
then really point out in that case what they're doing well, to your point, and over communicate that, and maybe hold back on the critiques when you just randomly pop in.
Yeah. Or, I like to, like, make note and talk to them in private.
Yeah,
Don't be talking to them on a job site because the customer is going to hear.
right.
And all that does is say, I got a guy working in my bathroom, doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
That's all that communicates. It won't communicate. Doesn't matter if you started with 5 good things, they haven't heard the last 2 bad things. Of course, that's all they're going to remember. So it tarnishes the job.
Well, yeah, and to that point, I'm also keenly aware of whether it's I'm teaching somebody woodworking or I'm learning woodworking,
Right.
whatever that is, or it could be marketing knowledge work. If as the boss, if the information I have to tell you, the critiques, is only going to improve your work product by like 5 to 15%, I should just shut my damn mouth. At some point, I could pull up next to you and work alongside of you and coach you to that better. But I know that the words, no matter how nice of a person I try to be, my words come across as criticism and they're weighty. And so
Yeah.
if I could say something that's going to improve the output by 50%, I might say something.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm going to look for how can I coach, which is usually going to be how do we get shoulder to shoulder and do this together, or put somebody else next to you shoulder to shoulder to do it with you so that you can learn from them, as opposed to just letting my words say it. Because especially as the boss, like it's weighty in the same way that's like if my wife says something that's the smallest thing negative, it's so much weightier than if a friend does.
Right. Right. You said this a few times, and I love it because I use the same thing, and that's the word coach. In a leadership position, it's not it's not even training; it's coaching.
Right.
What you're doing, you're trying to coach, because think of the mindset, the mental shift that is. Okay, a coach isn't like necessarily barking orders, telling you you're screwing up, you're doing this. I mean, there's a point to that, but this really is, how do I make them better?
Right.
So whatever they're struggling in, you come alongside. All they want is the feedback. What
Right.
people don't realize is, you want to make someone happy. They probably know they're doing it wrong, but they don't know how to do it right. So if you'll just come say, hey, looks like you're struggling with that a little bit. Can I show you something?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Then boom, we show, oh man, this, all right, man, you're good to go. See ya. Like,
And that's so hard for people in the trades, I find, because very often, especially for the owner operator shops or they're getting started, you are probably better at every job that you're
mhm,
hiring people for than what they are doing. Heck, you are probably better at the person that's setting the appointments because you know the questions to ask and the follow-ups, so you can probably you're probably better than that person that you literally that you've hired to answer the phones and put stuff on your calendar, but you can't do it. And so the only way to get them better is to coach them through it. And that's
right,
not training. Training is different than coaching. Training
that's
is
right.
just speaking or go read this damn pamphlet. Coaching is let's sit up alongside and I'll do this with you. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to watch you do it and give you feedback, and then you're going to do it by yourself. And if that doesn't
Yep,
work, we'll rinse, repeat again.
that's right. Yeah, that's the key to this whole thing. It's yeah, it can come down to definitions, but it really is the mindset and the attitude of how you're trying to get people up to speed. And like you're saying, another component, you already know this, but it's creating the system and process. A
Mhm.
lot of times with these owner operators, small ones, or they're growing, they've never put it in lanes. So they have an office manager, they have whatever, a bookkeeper. They don't know what success looks like in a day,
Right.
in a week, in a month, in a year, right? So they don't have taken the time to do that. So people actually have some boundaries and know where to work and where to find the answers and everything else. They kind of get the ride along philosophy. Well, just hang out with me for 3 weeks. You'll have it all figured
Right.
out. Like, no, that is not a good plan. That is not a good plan at all. Number one, it delays them being successful
Yeah.
on their own, but it really hurts your business because you
Yes.
expect them to like remember everything. They need that training bank to go to and that process. And this is how we do things. See, there's four other people do exactly what you do. You're going to do exactly what they do because they're all doing the same thing in the same
Right.
way and they're all killing it because we've designed a system that wins and we're going to put you in the winner circle so you can run. It really works out well.
I agree with all of that. Well, what you said that made me think there's one more major thing. I don't know. Tell me if you've seen this or not, but the good and the bad thing of that owner operator is when you start expanding, you often hire family or start bringing family in,
Oh,
and
oh,
which can be awesome. But
oh,
like I heard this years ago, and I follow this in because my wife ran a marketing agency for years with us, and we've had a number of companies, and but this husband and wife, very successful, tens of millions of dollar business, and people were asking them like, so how do you make this work? And I think it was the husband that had a hard time switching back and forth between like, am I business partner or am I husband and protecting my wife? And so she could do the flip a little bit easier. And so he finally had to do the thing. I'll use my glasses. If he was to make sure that he wasn't crossing the line back and forth, he actually had to put on a hat if he was then going to talk as the husband so that he could get into, I'm not your partner. Like, we're switching this conversation. I may take my hat on and off, but you need to know I'm mentally changing and I'm using that as a physical change. And so, like, I use it even for me to your point, like, hey, you're going to put up that, you're going to put decals and wrap your vehicle. Like, put on the glasses of somebody that has no idea what your business is and
right,
what did they see. Well, you've
right.
got to do things like that with family. Like, it's wonderful. My brother and I worked together for years. You know what? We gave each other three virtual tokens. We only ever had to use two of them a year. That it was literally like the shut up, this is my decision token. Because we knew at the end of the day, we still want to be brothers, but a lot of people don't act like it. And at some point, we might not agree, and very seldom, but I'd be like, this is my decision. We're not talking anymore because it's not going to
Yeah,
go well, and we're never going to agree. And this is my decision.
yeah. Yeah, it's it's those positions of authority and executive decision, everything else. I think family businesses are just hard. Even
Yeah.
if you figure out systems, they're always going to be difficult. But regardless, I think in a family business, what helps the most if people come in with very unique skill sets
Mhm.
that one doesn't, if they both have the same skill sets, that's when it gets ugly
Yeah.
because they're not, they're like, it's just a battle all the time. But
Right.
if you're the tech guy and your wife's marketing and admin,
Yeah.
that could be beautiful. She's got her realm, you got your realm. You may cross over a
Yeah.
little bit here and there, but like I'm going to work, she's going to work. We're in the same building, but we work together. And then you come there. So, but that's a whole nother dynamic. The family stuff. I mean, I didn't do well with that. I had my family work for me for a while. They wanted to come and it, you know, year and a half, and that was enough there. So there's created some bitterness, but you got to do what you got to do.
For
You
me, it
know,
all falls into just that communication and healthy conflicts. And so whether it's family or employees or you're working for somebody or you're franchising something, it's like it's setting up the systems to your point from before about, hey, there are certain conversations we need to have, and maybe they don't need to be spur of the moment. And especially if it's
right,
family, like you have to set up the boundaries for when you can have that conversation or the coaching things. Like you said, you
yeah,
may see something right on a job site and you choose to not speak it because that's not the right time to coach it.
that's
Well,
right.
you would schedule that time and the person's working for you doesn't even know you've scheduled it, but you know
Right.
you've scheduled it. And so it's also out of your head until next Thursday at 2 o'clock when you're going to bring it up.
Yeah, that's a really good point too, there, Kurt. Because right, like I tell guys, write it down, put it in your notebook. Okay, you're going to meet later. You're going to maybe this next morning in the huddle, whatever. But like you have to release that. If that stays in your head and you don't literally write it down, writing it down is like a transfer.
Yeah.
Like you put it in, you close it. Now you know you're not gonna forget because you got it written down. Otherwise, you are gonna stew on. At least I know I would.
Oh,
I'll stew on this stuff and just we'll get to like we get off at 4 at 3:50. I'm blowing my mind right on someone that's just you get. I can't take it anymore. So you got to kind of develop that system early on. Coming out of the Marine Corps, working, building businesses, I was not the leader you wanted to be around. We got stuff done. We got stuff done well and in a hurry, and it was that. But it took. I only hired people like me. Okay, if you were like me, you're not coming on the team because I only operate one way, and I am very grateful. As I tell my kids, you need to be who I am, not who I was. So if you're going to model something, model what I'm doing now. You're all 20 now and 18, and like you've seen the last 10 years, 15 years. That's what you want to go by, because you didn't really know me before then. But if you talk to other people, I was a different person. You know what I mean? Running those companies. So it's a different. I'm a different. It's age and wisdom, but it's experience. It's
yeah.
leading more people and watching other people lead people and creating leaders. When you start being a leader who creates leaders, that's when you really begin to change.
Right, right.
I mean, because all of a sudden you're getting this, you're really having to put what you do into a training program and like step by step and like, ooh, like you said,
Right.
you start walking through it, you're going, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. It works for me, but I don't think it works for anybody. Like I'm a big negative reinforcement guy. I love it. Call me names, beat me down a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to crush it. Okay. Most people are not like that.
Right. Yeah.
97% of the people are not like that. So
Yeah, my wife's heard me. I'm like, I'd prefer that coach at the gym. That's the angry drill sergeant.
that's it.
So it's taken like 3 years for a new coach at our Iron Tribe Fitness to finally start to get there. And so like I walked in on Monday and I started getting like he's like what it came out of his mouth when I walked in was like, he's that old time Scottish friend of mine. And I was like, we're finally there.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah. We were like that. You come. I had boot camp style. I had all Marines working for me as
yeah,
trainers. I mean, we got blouse boots. I mean, we got the hat, the name, and we're dialed in. You come in, it's just a big empty warehouse
yeah,
with some
yeah,
pull-up bars and stuff, and people like they just sense the pain. Okay, and it's all body weight, and it's like ready, begin, and we get them, and it's just, and we crush them for 35 minutes and send them away. No, there's no showers here. Get out of here. You worked out. No, get out. Okay.
right, right.
You got 35 minutes, it's 36 minutes. Get out of here.
Yeah, people ask to turn on the fan sometimes, and I'm like, there's no
Oh,
fans
sure.
here. I don't even want the
No
lights
fans
on.
here.
One light in the corner on.
I say there's fans. See those black ropes over there? Start waving them battle ropes. Do that. We'll get some air going in here. So yeah, make them
But
all
but my
suck.
but my wife hears that and she's like, I would never show up to a gym with the coach
Right.
that you wanted. And I'm like, I want it like on their website. Like we're gonna be
Yeah.
mean to you.
Yeah.
Um, but
Know
not
your
everybody's that
client.
way.
Right. But you got to know your clients. That's how I was. People came in, worked in 4-man squads. We had competitions, everything else. I mean, and you could be 70 and working out side by side with other people, and it was awesome. I mean, it was just camaraderie, but it's hard. I had a 3-foot riding crop. I walked around with that, and I'm hitting the mat at their butts up. I'm slapping their butt. Get your butt down. Get in a decent plank. Just doing stuff, and they loved it.
Well, you'll appreciate this. While I love the drill sergeant, on the opposite side, this person who gives me positive reinforcement, I don't know how, but working out, I can turn that into a negative and toxic thing so bad. I'll almost you say, hey, that's great form on that snatch. I'll almost get up and walk out in 10 minutes because
Yeah.
it keeps rolling around in my head, and that's just not what I want to hear. And it works the
Yeah.
exact opposite of me. But all my coaches have figured that out somehow. I
Yeah.
think they just realized we say something good, and his face just changes like he's been beat like
Yeah.
a dog.
Yeah. I was this morning, I do this really intense battle rope workout with squats and everything else, and I'm always pushing like I'm the nut, right? And when I'm going, and my phone kept this guy kept ringing, and and I'm doing 30-second rounds and all this stuff, and I'm like, and I go hit it, and it does again. I'm like, does he know I'm working? I'm like, I'm just going harder and harder. No one talks to me,
Right.
but I am the sweat, the grunting, whether I'm hitting the bag, doing the battle rope. I mean, I am that guy
Yeah.
that like people just like look and I'm just killing it. And today was a PR. The most amount of squat, 376 squats. I had this. I'm like, this was a day. Lathered up. And I go downstairs and I just go to the desk. I go, put great down today. So don't get the great workout. This was a great workout, but and it's just suffering. There's rows of sweat wherever I'm
Yeah.
working out. I just mark the floor and I'm getting a little over the top here, Kurt, but I just love it. Okay. I can't go easy. I just don't do easy workouts. There's no such thing. It's leave it all on the floor, go home,
That's okay. I used to be that way from a work perspective as well. And then it's always when like I made people millionaires and some of them still won't return my phone calls today
Yeah.
to your point about like, hey, be who I am today, not who I was. And I'm like, I
Right.
made people really wealthy and I've apologized. I sent some things in the mail and like they still won't take my phone call right now. And
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I believed if you cried that you were a bad employee. If the whole room cried, it meant that I dialed it up to 11 and I need to come back to a 9 or a 10.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So,
I hear you. Yeah. It's, what the great thing about all this is you grow.
right.
Actually get better. So like for anyone listening, like you might be a mediocre leader right now. You might be a hard leader right now. But there is better ways. There's new tools to put in the toolbox so you can lead better. Because I always tell people now, right at this moment, we have 5 generations working together. Okay. Think about that dynamic. They all communicate different. They're all from different eras. They all have different work ethics. They have all this stuff. It doesn't mean that not all of them, some don't work at all. They don't want to work. You just you don't know how to tap into them yet.
Right.
Once you figure out how to tap into them, they're bringing stuff to the table that you've never thought of. And you need to embrace that and not be afraid of that or just, these kids today. I mean, listen, they've been saying kids today since like, I don't know, Adam talking about Cain and Abel. These kids don't, I mean, it just goes all the way back. I'm telling you, it's like it doesn't. I always use this. I was in the Marine Corps right in the early '80s. I think a few years ago, I'm walking at this World War II reenactment. My son does. There's a vendor there, and he's a Marine, and he goes, "Oh, you're in the Corps? Yeah, I was in the Corps." He goes, "Oh, when?" I go, "Oh, '83," and he goes, "Ooh, real Marines." Like that. And when I go, what's funny about that? We said the same thing about the Vietnam guys. We're like, oh man, real Marines. I go, every generation, the generation before is the real Marine. Okay,
Right.
we're all Marines. Okay, but when you get time, it's like, oh, that's when they were really bad. I said, yeah, it's just that thing, right? So that age is the great equalizer. But again, when you start dialing in those generations, you got to understand they all see things differently. They look up and they look back in
Right.
2 different ways. So just a leadership tip. That's all that is. So. Kurt, this has been awesome. We have killed it. This has been absolutely amazing. So you brought so much good stuff to the table. I so appreciate you, man. This has been fun. How can people follow you, get in touch, do the thing? You know the drill.
My personal website, Kurt Uhlir, uhlir.com, is the best place to follow me and get some leadership stuff that I write. Or for the home search providers out there, easyhomesearch.com, EZ as in zebra, homesearch.com. We've got a directory of millions of people that need the
Ooh.
best people anywhere in the country.
This is a good thing. This isn't Angie's list. Okay. It's a little different. Okay. So but you want to tap into these things. This is the biggest value right here. We saved it to the end. That location, check that out, get on there and drum yourself up some new business. I love it, Kurt. Well, Kurt, thank you so much again for joining us today. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Sharpen the Spear podcast. If you're a manufacturing executive and you're serious about unlocking hidden profit, improving frontline leadership, and taking control of your floor? Go to grit2lead.com right now. Run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator and discover your biggest opportunities are hiding. Don't leave millions on the table. Sharpen your spear, lead from the front, and win the floor. Until next time, stay sharp.